Our enterprise service bus, or the ESB, is a key part of Flowrite for event-based processing. And the cool thing with Flowrite is there are various parts of Flowrite where you can extend by building your own custom things like custom steps, data types. So even in the ESB, you can extend the ESB by building your own event handlers. You can define your own event, and you can also say, when this event happens, I want to build I want to have an event handler that's going to perform something, and that event handler can be completely coded, built and configured. So, for example, let's go ahead and go to our event definitions, and let's go ahead and create a new event definition. And so event category is going to be, let's say, example. And under example, let's create an event name called, let's call it example event. And we can also add a bunch of parameters here if you want. So let's say um, info, data, and we'll just leave those two. And now we have this particular event that we have defined. And if you go back to our ESB, what we can do is now we can tell, when that event happens, we want a certain event handler to act on it. So now we can go and build an event handler. So I'm going to go into my example project, and this is my example data type project, but I'm going to also add another class here to my existing one. And within one DLL, you could have steps, data types, events. You can have plenty of those classes all in one also. Or you can also organize them and have them separately in separate DLLs also. So let's go ahead and put a class called CLS example event handler. Let's change this to public. And here we're going to implement the DEI event handler uh, interface. And you will see that it doesn't recognize this because we have to put the API as a namespace. And then once we do that, we have to actually implement the interface. So you can see we have an execute method, and inside the execute method, we can put any kind of error logging, reporting, any kind of code that we want. So let me put a try catch block in here. And so in here, what we can also do is we can, if any error happens, we'll log that. So we'll call the error provider and say add entry, and we're gonna call we're gonna give the name of the class as the source of the error, and we can give the exception, and we can also give a priority, but we don't. Let's see if we have to give priority. Yes, let's give a priority also. Let's say hi, and we are done. Okay, so we get a little entry error here. Let's see. No overloaded. Okay, I think we have to also give another parameter here, priority level. Let me just remove this and see EX priority level. Okay, high. And then I believe entry type is, which is error. And we can also say origin context dot, we're can say mark event processed, and the status we can give error. And for the error message, we can just put the message we get from the exception. And otherwise, I'm just going to say ONGM context dot mark event processed, and the status is executed. So here what we're going to do is we're going to, let's say, take in the event parameters that comes in with the event and write that info into a little file in the file system. So let's call it, let's say a string as path equals, I'm just going to write the file into my temp folder. So let's put temp event data. And if this path doesn't exist, we'll create it. We're going to save. Actually, directory dot exist doesn't exist. We'll do directory dot create directory and the path. And now that we have done that, let's also generate a little file for it, file name. So we'll do spath equals, I'm going to say dollar spath, and there are many ways to build this path. And I'm going to say, so let's get a grid. Let me put an @ sign so it's escaped. And let's do a new grid. And we'll also put the event name. So I can put ONGM context dot event. Let's put event ID. We'll just use the event ID as the name of the file. I think that should be enough. And .txt. And to this, what we want to do is we want to write the parameters. So let's do for each. And string param in get event parameters. Okay. And you can see this returns us a hash table. So we really want the keys. And here I'm going to just do file dot append text, and we'll do spot comma, and then we'll do get event parameters. Actually, I'm just going to store this into a collection or a hash table. So we'll store it there, and then we'll use the dictionary, or you can here, and we'll use the hash table to get the key and the value. So we can do something like dollar and we'll put the value from the dictionary here. And oh, we got an error in the hash table. I think the hash table needs a capital T here. Okay, let's see what if I made a mistake. Collections hash table. Okay. Yeah, let's see what. telling me that I'm missing. Uh, let's just make sure using system.collections. There you go. I was missing a namespace, but everything is good. So now we should be able to save this and build this. So we have compiled it. I'm going to go ahead and take the file from here and copy to the bin folder. So let's take the DLO. So it's called example data types. And let's go to my bin folder and paste it there. Next thing we had to do is we had to reload the UI, and this is going to take a bit of time because the app domain has to load because we put a new DLL into the bin directory. So once this UI loads, we'll continue. Now that the UI is loaded, let's go and configure it, and we can automatically configure this new event handler within Flowrite. So I'm going to go to my ESB and go to event handlers. And here I'm going to also go and say auto detect. And we can see that it has auto detected our example event handler. So let's go ahead and auto configure this. So it's configured. Now we can go back to our ESB and configure our enterprise service bus with the event and the event handler. So I'm going to go here to example and let's add a subscriber. So the event we want to use is our example event, and the event handler we want to use is the CLS example event handler. So we're going to go ahead and select that and say create. Now if you expand, you will see we have the event and the event handler. Event can be also handled by multiple event handlers if you like, but in this case we'll just use this. We can also go and generate this event manually. Typically these events are generated through our REST API or the .NET API, but in this case I'm going to say generate event right from my UI. And in this particular case I can also you can see the event category and the event is selected. And I'm going to add our info. So let's say some data and add that. And we also have a parameter called data, and let's add 999. And we're going to generate this event to our ESB. Soon as it's generated, it gets published to the ESB, and since our ESB engine service is running, it's going to go and execute that event and use the custom handler that we built to perform what we want. So let me just make sure I don't have anything in my temp event data directory here. So temp event data. So I don't have anything in this directory. Let's go ahead and hit the publish. So generate event. And we can also go and view the events. So let's say view events, and you will see that I just created this example event, which is now in executed state. And here are the parameters that came through. And if we go to the file system, we should be able to see a file. So you can see the event id.txt. And if you look inside, it wrote data and the value and info and the value. I forgot to put a character return, or I ended the line /n or a new line character, so that's why it didn't end up in the next line. But you can see the key, the parameter key and the value were written into this file. So this is a way to build a custom event handler. We have customers built handlers to send email messages to support when a workflow instance errors out, or you can make it do anything you want with the subscribe publisher model. And this is another way to extend or expand Flowrite by building our own custom event handlers. Thank you for watching the video.